Hey everybody, my name is Titan and welcome to this early guide to Industries of Titan. This is a new game that dropped on the Epic Store, and it's a city builder based on the moon, Saturn, and that's actually really loud. I'll turn that down a little bit. I took notes while playing to help you out with some of the beginner stuff, and I'm gonna make a new city so I can clean this up, but I just kind of wanted to get through and get the basics before I start making it look pretty like I would usually do, like probably like a Tropico or a Cities game. But the game tutorial shows you how to set up a factory and how to do basic management and developing power and creating a storage system, but doesn't really speak to the efficiency and the intricacies that's required for development. So that being said, by the way, if you want to see, I stream this on Mixer at Titan Aviator, and if you want to see some gameplay of this, let me know. Basically the premise for right now is take over these settlements right here, which are rebel camps, and there are 5 of them initially, and ideally you want to get this number down to 0. But we'll start with the basics. First of all, the game speaks to artifacts and tells you they are a necessary item to trade to keep a positive relationship with the council, but that's not really true and it's not really important early on. Influence, which you can donate artifacts for influence, but you don't really need to. There's a ticker up here that is passive and you'll get influence points no matter what. So it's not really important. What you really want to use the artifacts for are for converting citizens into employees, but we'll get to that later. The cap on this is 200 points, by the way, and these are used for expanding your area. This little blue threshold is my territory, or active places where I can build, if you will. My actual command area is the yellow. These are all places where I can freely roam and places where bad guys shouldn't be coming from, right? And you get these by getting command centers. But ruins, I'll turn this back on. Ruins come either level 1, 2, or 3, and they're pretty self-explanatory, where a previous settlement failed and for growing your new settlement. But basically, what you want to do is you claim one of these from the faction, and you want to survey it. And surveying it will tell you 2 things. It'll tell you what kind of resources it has and the artifacts available. And I would consider the cost opportunity for salvaging artifacts versus minerals, because it's going to come back 2 ways. You're either going to get artifacts or minerals, and we have a little guy coming, and artifacts as of right now are most important and there's no other way to get them. So I would say based on what you get, because you do have a thing in the game called nodes, and nodes are basically infinite resources or an infinite source of either isotopes or minerals, or you get said isotopes or minerals from patches on the ground. So basically you come over here and you say 4 minerals and 1 waste versus 1 artifact. Obviously you want the artifact. So that's pretty much it. Nodes and isotopes. Nodes that either give minerals or isotopes, self-explanatory. Next on the list would be employees. You get a set number of employees in the beginning of the game, and they are what they are, but they're not very smart, I'll tell you that. I found myself rearranging tasks in order of like priority of things I want them to do, but they don't always do it, but it tells them that they should do it. So like number 1 is repair. If anything ever pops up as a job available, they should recognize that and do that first. They should. They don't always do, but they should. If a task is too low, usually, unless there's absolutely nothing else to do, you'll find that they ignore the bottom of the list, which is, I get it, but it's not very efficient. But there are mainly 2 ways to get employees. Employees are created by converting citizens into employees, and you do that with either conversion centers, or let me find a capsule. Conversion capsules. Because the center seems fancy, you may be inclined to spend the credits and build them, but let me tell you, it's not more efficient than the capsules. Capsules, they do two things. They convert employees, but they also give you a supply, or like an allowable for how many employees you can have at one time. So like per one capsule, it allows you to have 2 employees while that capsule is functioning, right? And it only costs 1 energy. And that becomes important because conversion centers hold 4 employees and cost 4 energy. So really it's a wash, and it's a waste of energy when you need to build and expand. So it costs 4 energy to build, and the maximum upgrade that also costs you isotopes. That also costs 4 energy. But if you want 4 capsules, that gives you an allowable of 8 employees, and they only cost you 4 energy, so about half. And a fully upgraded conversion center that gives you 4 allowable employees costs the same in energy, so it's not worth it. Next would be citizens. Citizens are bought, and they give you currency, credits, basically. These up here, the 50,000 that I have, citizens give you money by watching advertisements, pretty much. And I don't see any point at this point in the game to go past like a maximum of 30 citizens. I only have 26. That's really all you need to get this ticker going, because in this building you can have up to 5, and that generates a credit for 5 per second, and the building generates credits too. But I also found that it may have been using the number of citizens as a multiplier, so it was actually multiplying the number of citizens I had for credits instead of how many were actually in this building. And I'm not sure if that's a bug or not. Next would be storage. Storage can come either 2 ways. A storage facility, which gives you more storage on the outside, but they also cost energy too, so it might be worth it to just stick to storage containers, large ones, these. And I would also recommend you filter these, because you can tell them to hold either minerals, isotopes, or waste. And I don't want any of mine holding waste because we have a smokestack for that. But either or would be fine, actually. Minerals or isotopes, because I have these 2 here filtered for isotopes only. And you want to do that because it's disproportional to the amount of minerals you have to isotopes, because these are more abundant naturally. You get minerals from ruins, you get minerals from patches, but isotopes are a little more rare. Like there's 1 node here, there's 2 patches here, but you can see how more abundant you can get those. So I would designate some places like this storage facility here where it only collects isotopes, because these are important for upgrading things. And also storage bins cannot be moved once you have materials in them, so be careful of where you put them, because if you block places off, your guys won't be able to travel around or get to places where you want them to be, and they won't be able to access certain things. And I just thought about that when I was doing this level, because if you block all this off, these 2 won't be obtainable, so keep that important. Waste is waste. There is a smokestack. This gets rid of waste for you. Not super important. Something about pollution. Not terribly important right now, but I guess that'll be later in the game. Energy basically is the life of the city, and they're important because fuel creators and relays, generators, and such things. Generators increase the amount of energy that can be used. Let me show you that. We're talking about allowables again. Generators generate up to 9 energy, and Mediums do 6 and smalls do 3. And then on the outside of the city, if you want to get fancy, you can use like energy plants down here in the power section. And these are nice, but they also cost fuel to use. So depending on like if you don't want to designate floors to putting out energy like I did. So like on this factory, I have designated for creating and putting out energy. Versus because these take up less fuel than the generators outside. So it depends on what you want to do. And these also are subject to being attacked. One of these goes down, and because depending on how important these are, if one of these goes down, it could compromise the whole system. So it's better to have like a backup inside of factories, so you could burrow these factories and therefore protect the importance of the system, because these also rely on energy. Your turrets, which are basically the protection for your city from the rebels. To keep that in mind, pylons are pretty much used to relay, spread energy from plants and generators to across your territory. So that's important. Fuel as of right now is free. Fuel is built from turbines, and fuel can be stored, and it's important that you do store fuel because this is basically the backbone of the whole game. Fuel is pulled from the atmosphere, so it's free basically, but you still need these guys to turn it into something usable. So you want to have fabricators and you want to have tanks available, so if anything ever happens, the generators will pull from the tanks rather than pulling from the fabricator. So there's a little bit of a delay, like a little bit of redundancy there. So nothing ever like stops working, because the game is again about efficiency, and you want to have backups for the backups. So you get generators or turbines, and then you get some place to hold them, which can either be a silo or fuel tanks. And I'd recommend you do the large ones. And like I have here, you want to hold the stuff. You want to have some place for them to stay, because like I said, you want like a barrier between the generators and the fuel fabricators, because they can only pump out so much at a time. So you want like a reserve of where these guys pull from, just in case you have to upgrade or build something. And they're not super necessary, but later on it'll be a nice buffer, so I would build them as you go. The council right now serves no other purpose than giving you influence. I guess they'll have a stronger importance later in the game. As of right now, they hold no weight to the actions you do. So defense, rebel camps are, like you said, start out at 5, and you want to get this number down to 0. So you do that as you do. Get there when you get there. I already got one guy. I didn't want to get super far because I'm gonna level this whole place. I'm gonna get this to 5, but there's no rush really. I'm still learning the ins and outs. But basically, in order to expand your reach, you need command centers. The yellow is called your vision, and it also includes like places you can claim. So you can sort of, like I did here, hop across, put down a pylon, you got energy relayed, and then put down a command center that can overtake their area. And turrets help. The first time they attack you, they're going to send one ship, probably each settlement. So just one turret is fine. This is the one I started off with, but I have noticed after each attack, they double the amount of ships they give you. So my guy here almost got overtaken, but he didn't because it was level 3. So I would recommend doubling up turrets in a close area so they serve as each other's backup, so they don't get overtaken, because ships will get stronger and quicker, and one turret is not enough. I found later in the game for one ship. Burrowing's pretty self-explanatory. You press this button, all the and I got enough credits I can do it. All the buildings in your city, besides the ones that are connected, burrow, basically. So when you are attacked, they cannot be attacked because they are under the ground. So that's important. Anything except command centers, headquarters, turrets obviously, but also connected buildings are burrowed. Undo that. And that's just a safety feature, so you should be selective about which buildings you connect and how important said buildings are, because like this energy plant is pretty important, but it also can't be burrowed. So if this is attacked, that's a problem, and it probably would compromise the energy system. So be careful where you place things, and if you do, as you see here, I got 2 turrets on either side, so this shouldn't be compromised, depending on what they send, but it shouldn't be unless you're in crazy mode. Pathways are self-explanatory. Inside buildings, this means a little more than outside buildings. Doesn't really matter outside the building, but pathways inside buildings are very important, because certain stations have like open and exit, so they need to get there, and for this guy to get here, he has to come across and go in. If any of this was blocked off, this would be null and void. You'd have it, but they can't get to it. So pathways inside buildings matter, outside they don't. That's basically pretty much it. Spent about 11 hours in the game, so I got the gist. And they have, do a quick save, updates coming, so more efficiencies, more things to worry about, like transportation and combat. So that's good. I'll be looking forward to that. But outside of that, that's really all you need to get started. My name is Titan, and thanks for watching.